Hello Movie Mavens! Welcome back to another video on the B Movies channel. My name is Bailey and I put the B in movies. As always, I hope that all of you are having a wonderful week. Definitely no complaints over here. I was fortunate enough to have Monday off because my sister was in town this weekend. We had a really good time. And I got to go see Problemista and Immaculate, which we will talk about Immaculate later because I loved it and I have a lot to say about it. And yeah, so far so good. I hope you're having a good week. And yeah, that's all I have before we dive into the baby babbles. Bailey babbles. I went to the movies last night and I did that thing where you go to a movie or like you go out to eat or something like a little bit later than you usually do, like I went to a 7 o'clock movie, and you get home and you're like, I'm just wired because of life right now. And so you wind up staying up like way later than you would have if you stayed home, but like you're not mad about it. And so that's where I am. I stayed up way past my bedtime because to go ahead and jump into the Bailey Babbles, I watched, between last night and all day today, I watched all of Who TF Did I Marry on TikTok. And oh my gosh, is it crazy? I feel so bad for her. I just want to give her a shout out. If you don't know what I'm talking about, so Risa M. Tisa over on TikTok did a 50-part story breakdown about her ex-husband. And I just want to commend her for sharing her story. As someone who grew up in a house with a narcissist, cheater, so on and so forth, I feel for her because I know what it's like to be in that type of environment, and obviously I'll never be able to relate directly because I've never been in that type of relationship. But having someone similar in your life, I can't give her enough kudos for going through all 50 parts. And again, it's Reesa, R-E-E-S-A-M, Tisa, T-E-E-S-A, if you haven't seen it. Trigger warning and content warning for abuse, gaslighting, compulsive liars, anything in that nature, domestic issues, anything of that nature, just trigger warning. But I do want to give her a shout out for being brave, and she talked about this in there, and I know that it's like she's a great storyteller and like there are parts where she cracks jokes, but I love that her reasoning is to try to save at least one person. And I haven't, as someone who writes on the internet, sharing those pieces of yourself and sharing that vulnerability is incredible. And it was, gosh, the things she went through. So if the trigger warnings and content warnings don't bother you, or if you want to give it a try, I can't recommend it enough because it's crazy. And Risa, like, you should absolutely write. You should have a blog, or you should start a YouTube channel because I'm like, I barely moved and I've got to get a new setup. But just thank you for sharing that with us. And so I stayed up way too late last night watching the first several parts, and then all day long that's what I had on while I was working, and just boy howdy. Also, you may notice I got some new blue light glasses. It's honestly like this is giving Edna mode, but I'm here for it. I love it. So I'm here for it. I was like, it's kind of giving Penelope from the Amanda Show, but I also watched Quiet on Set this weekend with my sister, and that's another one, like, content warning, trigger warning for child abuse, SA, just really horrible stuff, and like, screw all of them for doing what they did to the people that enabled that to happen. it's icky. And so that's why I was like, maybe let's just stick to Edna mode, which I mean, Disney is Disney, but it's at least not someone who a certain disgusting person created. So I also watched Quiet on Set again. It's very good, but it's very heavy. So like, fair warning, I would space it out. So I watched that this weekend. And then the last thing I kind of have for today's Bailey's Babble is I go to the movies a lot, and I'm very fortunate to do so. And I've talked about this a little bit before, but I go to an Alamo Drafthouse. And if you aren't familiar, Alamo Drafthouse is an in-theater food ordering environment. So you have your initial server who takes your order and they bring your check, and then you also have runners bringing you food throughout the film, and you can order up until the last 30 minutes. And something I've been noticing, and it's not just here, it's been kind of everywhere. Y'all, the world is too scary and things are too difficult. Be nice to people, especially people in the service industry. I worked in the service industry for over a decade, and I can tell you, like, and I'm not being hyperbolic, I saw the worst of humanity when I worked in the service industry. I had grown women yell at me over ice cream. I had people put their finger in my face. I had people ask to talk to my supervisor when I was the manager or I was the shift supervisor. And then, or people assume that, like, my male coworker was the shift supervisor. And just be nice to people. Just be nice to people in general. And especially, like, if you've never worked in the service industry, you have no idea what it's like. People are horrible. People are horrible. And so, like, for example, if your server's introducing themselves, let them introduce themselves and finish their opening spiel before you just start ordering. If something is wrong, politely tell them. Don't throw a hissy fit. Just say, I am so sorry. I ordered this way. That's fine. But there is no need to, like, scream at a server. There is no need to, if a server's like, hi, I'm so-and-so, just cut them off and start ordering. Just have a little bit of decency, please. And also, tip your waitstaff. Tip your waitstaff. I don't care if there's a gratuity added, tip your waitstaff. That's point blank period, tip your waitstaff. At least 25%. At least. And more if you can. So just be nice. You know, like, even I was headed to the movies in a rideshare the other day, and this car, like, came up on my Uber driver who was going the speed limit. Like, they were not doing anything crazy, and she and I were just chatting. And they got right up behind her and honked their horn for a block. Like, just laid down just because they wanted her to go faster, and they did not pass her for 2 or 3 blocks. And so, like, just be nice to each other. That's my Bailey's Babble. Just be nice. Tip your waitstaff. Watch Who TF Did I Marry? Get new blue light glasses if you're feeling frisky. And that is all I have for today's Bailey Babbles. So today, we're still in a little bit of a limbo with some of our favorite analog horror series. You know, the Welcome Home site's down right now, so I'm assuming that things are coming with it. No Greylock yet. Midwest Angelica has been teasing some stuff. Excuse me. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be a video out soon from them. And so I do still have a couple treats for you, obviously. We still have Cypress Beauty updates. We have a new but very interesting Walten Files video. We have a new teaser trailer for the documentary portion of the children of the Woods, and I want to talk about Late Night with the Devil, and I also want to talk about Immaculate. So, before we get into all of that, those are just your coming attractions. Let's go ahead and do our weekly blog roundup. Sorry, one of my Shiloh. My little, for those who don't have a little fat Chewini named Shiloh, and he's a menace to society, but I love him very much. So, before we get into all of that, let's go ahead and get into our blog roundup, which, for those who don't know, the B-Movies channel is a continuation of the B-Movies blog, which is just bmovies.blog. It's always linked in the description box below. So, we post fresh pieces there Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. And so this week over on the B-Movies blog, we have Island and Beach Horror, my review of Love Lies Bleeding, which before we talked about it last week, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore, but like again, I had such high hopes for it. We have our review up for Irish Wish, which is, we're going to talk about it a little bit today because we're going to get into some AI conversations, some AI convos. Thursday, we did a spotlight on Parker Posey, which I know is so overdue, and I feel so bad, and I'm so sorry it has taken this long to get it out. And then on Friday, we talked about the movies I grew up with. These are just movies I watched a million times that I have special memories of. They just have a special place. They're those, the VHSs that you wore out, the movies that were always on TBS or TNT. So just to recap, this week over on the B-Movies blog, you have Island and Beach Horror, Love Lies Bleeding, Irish Wish, and Parker Posey, and the movies I grew up with. And again, all this can be found at bmovies.blog. It's always in the description box below. So next up, we have our Bite Size Sunday teaser. Bite Size Sundays are just little mini bite-sized reviews that you can find over on our Instagram, which is just at bmovies channel, same as our YouTube. And you can only get hints here on the channel. So it's just a perk of subscribing to our YouTube channel. And so this week, the teaser is science is fun, asterisk, unless it threatens the extinction of an entire species. I feel like this one should be a pretty straightforward teaser. I don't do straightforward teasers very often, but I think this one, and this one's a good one. This one's an interesting one. So, that is all of the housekeeping. So let's go ahead and get started on some of these reviews and today's deep dive, which is Irish Wish. So here's my thing, before I say anything about Irish Wish. I will support Lindsay Lohan. I'm so glad she's doing better. I fully support the Lindsay Lohan-assance, for sure. I will always respect filmmakers because I know how hard it is to make a movie. Just because I hate a movie doesn't make it bad. Just because I like a movie doesn't make it good. So with that being said, here's just it. I will shoot all of you straight. I do believe this movie was AI generated. I obviously can't confirm that, and if it wasn't, I apologize. I do believe it was AI generated. That is just my opinion. That is alleged. I don't know. Because to me, I will always be able to tell if a human wrote something versus if AI wrote something. To me, this feels like AI wrote it. This feels very AI generated. So again, it may not be, and if it is not, I apologize. But this movie just seemed very stiff. It didn't have that human connection to it. I said this in the piece, but I truly expected like one of the characters to break the fourth wall and like ask us to help them. Like it was giving Pearl smiling and crying during the end credits. Most of these characters are awful. Like Andy's friends in Devil Wears Prada, awful. And the premise isn't bad. The premise is just, like cheesy Hallmark Netflix movies, like we've talked about A Perfect Pairing for a Bite Size Sunday, like the premise is not bad, but it just almost feels clinical to me. Like there's just not that human touch, like, you know, very much like Spice Girls, like, stop right now, thank you very much, I need somebody with a human touch. That's what Irish Wish needs, is it needs that human touch to it. And so I hated it. And there are rom-coms I just watched one of my favorite modern rom-coms, which is Crazy Rich Asians, this past weekend. Sometimes when my seasonal depression gets mad, there have been weeks where I've watched Crazy Rich Asians 6 to 8 times. We're not going to talk about it. But, you know, I love their movie, like Sweet Home Alabama is another super guilty pleasure of mine. There are several rom-coms I love. But this just did not hit, sis. It just didn't, and it felt very stiff. So it's currently streaming on Netflix. Check it out for yourself. I'm just, as I always say, I'm just a silly goose who writes about pop culture on the internet. So watch it for yourselves, make up your mind, but that's where I stand on it. And also, we will come back to AI later. If you were paying attention in Coming Attractions, you'll probably know where the next AI conversation is going to fall. But that's just how I feel about Irish Wish. I would give it a 4.5 out of 10. Maybe a 5. It did not have that, like, human connection that we needed. So, next up, let's hit the special features. And if you are new here, the special feature section of this video, this is reserved for updates on our favorite analog horror and horror ARG series, things I want to talk about that I may not have written about yet, or I may not write about, just fun discussion topics that have popped into my head throughout the week. It's just kind of a catch-all fun bonus of subscribing to the YouTube channel. So first up, the Walten Files dropped. It's only like a minute and a half long, but I think it's very interesting. They dropped a video called Late Night Television. And late night television appears to be like the opening credits and sequence for an old show / sitcom called, wait for it, Wonderland. Interesting. And Wonderland seems to be based in Chicago, and the creator is listed as Bradley Fawn. The narrator / the voiceover announcer, there we go, I got there. The announcer also sounds extremely familiar. And once we go through the opening credits, if you turn your brightness way up, there's a face. There's a human being. And you'll see a face for several seconds. And then you hear the sound of a phone ringing, and the face leaves the screen. And to me, I don't think this face is Bond. I personally did not recognize this face, but I might be mistaken. I think this is someone connected to Bond, or a new character. I personally don't think it's someone we've met before. However, I could be wrong. It happens all of the time. So, however, I do believe that Wonderland does have something to do with the Wonderland that Susan and co have found themselves trapped in. Is Bradley Fawn Bond? Is Bond someone who worked on the show? Is Bond someone who is obsessed with the show? I don't know, but either way, I don't think it's obviously a coincidence that this show is called Wonderland. So I love how this story is developing. Martin, my man, you're crushing it. And I think that for only a minute and a half, there's a lot that we can take away here. And I'm really excited for the next episode, but obviously take your time. I read your community post the other day. Take your time. Definitely heal. I'm so sorry to hear that you have gotten involved in that ongoing situation. And, we'll all be waiting for you, man. So next up, we have the Cypress Beauty Analog Horror Video 4, which I believe is the last video in the series. And honestly, I've never been so excited to be so wrong about a theory before. And the reveal and the twist on this one is chef's kiss. Like, Vintage 8, you got me. This is good. So, we've kind of thought, let's be honest, I thought that Circle 7 was going to be the bad guys, that Dr. Alexis Lee, that they were the baddies, and that they were basically kind of making a superhuman race for the elite. But we're eating the rich, baby. Dr. Lee tells us what the beauty treatment actually is, aka we're turning the elite into trees. And yes, you heard me correctly. Don't adjust your screen. You heard me right. So, apparently, at this point in the treatment, your blood should be green, your skin should be hardening, and all of your hair should be falling out. Great. So it turns out that Cypress Beauty is sick of all of the devastation and just horrific deeds of the 1%. So they've decided to take matters into their own hands. They bought all of the land for these trees to be planted. And the really skin-crawling part of all of this is that these people are essentially suffering from locked-in syndrome. So, like, they're fully unrecognizable, but their brain is fully intact, so they can essentially participate in the longest timeout ever. So, Vintage 8, this one was good. This one got me. I love the reveal. I think the concept is phenomenal. This one was good. This one, it was short and sweet, but it was very good. So, thank you for this one. So next up we have Within the Woods, which is the Children of the Woods teaser trailer for the documentary. And so I love this concept because, like I said, it's very Curse of the Blair Witch, which those who are big horror fans or big Blair Witch fans or both know it is the documentary that accompanied the Blair Witch Project. And so mockumentary, it's not real, but it's very much presented as real. And so that's what this kind of appears to be. And the surprise is, so now we know how Morgue fits into the narrative because Morgue and her husband are in it, or in the teaser. And so I'm very excited. I can't wait to see how all this comes together. And I'm very excited. So that will do us for this part of the special features. So the other part of today's special features, it's going to be reserved for my thoughts about Late Night with the Devil and Immaculate. Which, spoiler up top, I loved both of them. Late Night with the Devil, if I'm going to be very honest, if I could have made another Showtime work, I would have gone to see it again. I can't wait for it to hit Shudder. I don't want to spoil any of it for any of you, so here is a pretty much spoiler-free review. I will say the movie from the trailer is not the movie you get. This is not a straightforward film about a late-night talk show gone awry. There's a lot more to it. I think David Dastmalchian kills it. Oh my gosh. He's so good. Everyone in it is so good, but he is next level. If you're like, what's it like? I would say it's adjacent to things like the WNUF Halloween Special and Ghost Watch, but there is a lot more gore and a lot more, I would say, surrealism. The third act is bat crazy. Crazy. That final act, even I would be supposed the last 20 minutes, are wild. And I would, if you can catch it in the theater, I would definitely see it in the theater first. Again, I can't wait till it's on Shudder, because this will be a repeat watch for me, for sure. However, there is one thing with Late Night with the Devil that I would be remiss if I did not talk about. And if you guessed earlier, this is where the AI conversation is going to come back up. I believe, and I will say allegedly, just in case it's not true, allegedly, in my opinion, the title sequences in Late Night with the Devil were AI generated. And if that is the case, in my opinion, allegedly, I do believe they should have hired real artists. This movie is so good, and it's made so well that there are so many artists that would have been stoked to do art for it. And I will say, if it is AI generated, this is another thing where, to me, it does look AI generated. And I've seen a couple articles and heard from some Instagrammers that it is AI. And if so, that's the only negative thing I have to say, and it's such an avoidable negative thing. Like, please find artists. There are so many wonderful artists out there who would have been so happy to have designed rad title cards. So that's the only negative thing I have to say, is like, please use humans wherever you can. But that's the only negative thing I do have to say about it. I loved it. I loved it. It will for sure be one of my favorite horror movies of the year. And another one of my favorite horror movies of the year will be Immaculate. Some people are going to get mad at me, but I loved it. I think it's a great homage to nunsploitation films. There's some grindhouse feel to it. There's some 70s schlock feel to it. But this is one for my hardcore horror peeps only. This is one for my Brian Usna, street trash, Slime City horror fans. Because there is a lot going on with Immaculate. It is brutal. It's only 90 minutes, and those are a mean 90 minutes. It does not hold back. We are off to the races. I know that some people have issues with the pacing. I don't. I think the pacing works really well. I also think it's a very good examination of pro-choice and how science and religion mix. And I do believe, allegedly in my opinion, that is why some people have issues with this movie, and that's why they're writing those crazy reviews. Is it blasphemous? I guess technically, but I would be so bold as to say it is no more blasphemous to me than The Exorcist or The Omen. I think it's more so, I think why people are having issues in certain groups of people, I think it's the pro-choice versus pro-life and the science and religion bits. I think that is the issue. Because to me, it was no more sacrilegious or blasphemous than The Exorcist, The Omen, anything in that vein. But I loved it. I thought Sydney Sweeney was phenomenal in it. I really everyone in it did an exceptional job. I thought the storyline was good. Could they have used some practical effects where they use CGI? Yes. Is it a perfect movie? No, it's not. But I loved it. I just have to be very honest. I loved it, and I saw it in the theater, and seeing a horror movie with me, scenes that make other people like squirm or make faces, my face will light up like a child on Christmas morning, and I will smile, and I will be gleeful about it. And so I'm very glad it's dark in a movie theater, because I probably look like a maniac in a theater during movies like this. And it's even more entertaining to me when people like start squirming and screaming and stuff. And there was a lot of squirming and oohs and cringes in my row, and definitely some in the row behind me, and so I recommend this one. I really liked it, but this is for my hardcore horror peeps. If you do not like gore, if you do not like horror, do not go see this movie. It is not for you. So, on that lovely note, I think we're going to hop into the subtitles. If you're new here, subtitles are just little pieces of news around the internet about upcoming projects, pop culture announcements, and I actually it's fun to throw them in here, and I actually have a lot today. There has been a lot announced, so like buckle up, because here we go. Luca Brockovich and Jeffrey Levy are allegedly reviving Ghoulies as a trilogy. The Never-Ending Story is slated to be rebooted in a new series of films, which I will not be seeing because of the scene, and you know the scene. I can't handle stuff like that. And yes, I mean, I know. You're like, but Bailey, you just watched Immaculate last night. Animals are different. I watched Pet Sematary 2 for the first time in like over a decade, and oh buddy, was I not prepared. Anyway, moving on. The Wizards of Waverly Place reboot has officially been greenlit, with David Henry and Selena Gomez both set to return. The last thing he told me will be getting a second season. I don't really understand why. Not in the sense of, like, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. But I don't really get why there's a second season, but okay. The Beetlejuice teaser trailer has been released. I am pumped. It looks so good. I'm so excited. And do I know that there is absolutely that I'm running the risk of setting myself up for failure and that I'm going to hate it? Yes. But the teaser, it looks very good. A sequel to John Tucker Must Die has been confirmed. Which, okay, alright, all of my aunt girlies, like, okay, yes. And one of my favorite announcements from this week, the cast and premise of the new Fear Street movie has been announced. It will be called Prom Night, and according to Bloody Disgusting, the plot is as follows. Welcome back to Shadyside. In the next installment of the blood-soaked Fear Street franchise, prom season at Shadyside High is underway, and the school's wolf pack of it girls is busy with its usual sweet and vicious campaigns for the crown. But when a gutsy outsider is unexpectedly nominated to the court, and the other girls start mysteriously disappearing, the class of '88 is suddenly in for one hell of a prom night. Could not be more excited for a film. It should have ended with, like, Bailey, this one's for you. We know how much I love the Fear Street trilogy. So excited for this one. And then I was like, okay, if I couldn't get more excited, let me just read you a few people. Chris Klein, India Fowler, Susanna Sun, Fina Straza, Lily Taylor, Catherine Waterston, and David Iacono. Like, come on. I'm so excited. Next up, A Simple Favor 2 is officially a go. We've been waiting forever. We all know that Blake Lively in that movie is my entire sexuality. We know how I feel when she looks at Anna Kendrick and says she'll have to slap the sorry out of her. So I will absolutely be there. It's been a big week. Don Mancini has announced that a new Chucky movie is in the works, and it will be tied into the television series, and he is also hoping for a season 4 of Chucky, which fingers crossed. So, yep, but we will at least be getting a movie, definitely. And then lastly, the final season of You is currently in production. You, my guilty pleasure, that show is so bad. It's so bad. It's horrible. Have I seen every episode? Yes. Yes, I have. So, for those of you that are like me and you're like, sometimes I need trash, the final season of You is currently in production, so it won't be much longer. I'm assuming next year. It'll probably be out next year. So, I think that will do us for today. So, as always, follow me over on Instagram at Lisa_Frankenstein_, which also, Lisa Frankenstein is out today on Peacock. Go stream it. That movie is so good. The movie's so good, and I think that it has been unfairly criticized by people. I'm not even going to call out there are some publications who did not give it a good review, and I don't understand it. Anyway, follow Elliot over on Instagram at reading.with.read. Follow us over on Instagram at bmovies.channel. That is where we post Bite Size Sundays. That is where we post a blog roundup on Fridays. That is where we post all things B-Movies. So be sure to give us a follow. Also, subscribe to the B-Movies channel. You're already here. It's free. Give us a like if you feel so inclined. Leave a comment. What did you think about Late Night with the Devil? What do you think about Immaculate? What are your feelings about AI? Just say hello. Someone the other day complimented my shirt. Thank you. So feel free to leave us a comment. Again, it's free. And I love our time together every week. So, yeah. I hope everyone has a good weekend. I will see you back here, same time, 2 p.m. CST next week. And on that note, all that's left to do is fade to black.